Morning traders, and today it's bin day for me, which is Thursday. It's the 25th of April, and we're going to take a look at the CFD price action today. And the daily chart that I've got on here, the most obvious thing that I can spot here is the fact that we have had, over the last couple of weeks, two separate bullish impulse waves, of which, well, I suppose you would call them impulse waves. This is kind of one impulse wave with a retracement leg in the middle, but each half of this bullish impulse wave has had 9 consecutive daily bullish candles. So the first wave back here at the end of March, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ending with a doji on day 10, and then today, again, 9 bullish candles. Slightly different, slightly shorter half to the previous half, but again, a little bit of symmetry. And what we'll notice here is that, again, you can pull various different line sets, but one line set example would be a fork, a pitchfork, which I've drew in the video from yesterday. You'll see that there actually has been a tag on what would be the upper median line parallel. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. Now, the trading disclaimer applies. Please read that in the description below if you're viewing this on YouTube. And alternatively, go to the website, thedaxtrader.co.uk, for more information. Okay, so let's just start off by getting the swings marked out here. Nice and simple. Higher highs, higher lows, judged based on these major swing markers. And the price action has been bullish impulse wave, bearish reaction leg, bullish impulse wave, bearish reaction leg. Currently in a bullish impulse wave on the major swings. Okay, now let's just number these for simplicity, starting with 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. We haven't really got a fifth pivot yet, but what we do have is this section in the middle here, which you can draw some line sets from. So for example, if we take a 1-4 pivot, which will be literally the first to the fourth pivot, and then what we'll do is we'll pull a line set of a parallel down to the 0 point here, and it gives us a potential target for pivot 5. And we'll notice just how close we're getting to that particular area now, and that will be something that I'd like to watch and see how interesting it might be. As far as the lows are concerned, we'll look at this in a moment on the hourly chart, but really what we want to see for this to continue is a break above yesterday's high, which on CFD was 366, and currently, if you like, this minor swing low, or this trend defining level, is way down there at 11849 on this chart. So some interesting stuff going on there. We haven't got a lot of data to examine on the 2019 profile here. We're right at the top of that range. We pierced to a 2019 high yesterday after this 9th consecutive daily bullish candle. So there's not a lot of note really examining this. So let's just move on to the daily. And this particular section here is the second half of this bullish impulse wave. Okay, so this was the bearish reaction leg. So you can see that we've got the minor swings inside this bullish impulse wave. So this is where we can probably pull the trend defining levels. And we're looking for the last confirmed low. And so this was the last confirmed low, for the simple fact that higher highs, higher lows, this is only a confirmed higher low once the previous higher high is taken out. So that's what happened there. So 12,196 on CFD is currently the trend defining level for me. This is a high, and of course this was from, it has to be yesterday, I'm sure it is, from yesterday. And whilst we are looking to try and attempt to get back up there, we really want to see that continue and break through to avoid any kind of potential retracement or pullbacks. Now, if we do get a pullback, if we do get to the stage where, if we go back to the daily chart, this particular idea runs out, or even just, you know, it's reached its maximum momentum and it's becoming exhausted, and it starts to get into retracement phase again, like we saw back here, then where can we reasonably expect for prices to pull back to? Well, this is what this volume profile is looking at over here on the left. I've just drawn it from around the ignition point after the lows of this reaction leg here. Okay, so from the next swing, if you like. I've just taken it from there. And you can see the higher volume areas. So you've got this one down here, for example, separated by this large low volume area. And we've got another high volume area down here. And a couple that you might be able to see up here. So it might be worth just marking a couple of these out on the chart, because as price retraces back to these zones, they generally tend to be quite supportive. Another area to mark out is probably this guy here, which is what would be the value area high of this composite profile. And of course, these, if it goes a little bit deeper into the pullback, then those kind of areas would be interesting to mark out as well. I think it would start to turn into a reaction leg once this 12,196 level has broken. All right. Okay. So we'll move on to the individual profiles. This was the profile for yesterday's price action. You'll notice that relatively kind of thin as far as it didn't really trade in one particular area for a huge amount of volume. This was the value area in the top half of the profile, with the point of control in the bottom third, if you like, the top of the bottom third. The daily pivot was underneath that, just around about 12.3. So that's a zone that could be interesting, especially when you consider all of these tails that were left behind on these candles here. Suggests that there was some buying activity happening in here that was defending, if you like, this impulse wave, this rally that broke out through yesterday's high and then caught the high of the day for yesterday. Once it pulled back, it was defended at, I'm trying to think what level this actually is. It may have been a Camarilla level, perhaps. This dashed line here at the top. It was defended on the top side of that. So for today, what we've got then is a potential to retrace back towards the point of control from yesterday and maybe get caught by either the daily pivot or the value area low from yesterday. If you look on the right hand side, you've got the composite profile from the last 5 days of trading. You've got the value area high there as well, inside that point of control pivot combo. So that would be an obvious spot to look for, which is about a 30-point pullback from where we are currently. Not particularly an interesting trade to take, if I'm honest, considering your risk. You'd have to park a stop loss up here, and you're really only getting 1-to-1, which is not a trade that would interest me personally. But what might be more interesting is a potential long, if you're brave, which would be buying from in that spot up here, and then looking for a break above the high. You just got to be aware that that's a pretty obvious trade. I think a lot of people would be expecting and anticipating that. So it's more likely what you'd see is the trap, which is where you take your first long and then get stopped out and off it goes after that. So maybe wait for a bit of divergence, perhaps, where you get this kind of mini spike. Providing this level holds, that could be an interesting potential opportunity. Okay, so they're the levels for today, and bearing in mind all of this is based on CFD today, so the futures prices, I haven't actually got that in front of me, but if I think this is the futures chart, yes it is, so you can have a look at what that would be down here, which is roughly 317, something like that, based on this, but that may be based on a TPO. Let me just have a look inside here. Nope, I can see the volume profile in the background here. Don't want to get too bogged down in the detail, but the volume profile is what that point of control is based on. Okay. Don't really need to run into any more detail than that, I think, today. It's Thursday, so if we take a look at the economic calendar for releases, I mean, the majority of the releases were yesterday, German IFO numbers, etc. But for today, really the majority of the high impact stuff is coming from Japan. I think a lot of it's already come out anyway. BOJ interest rate decision, they held rates. They've got the press conferences and the policy statements and outlook reports and all that kind of stuff that will be out and leaked over the next few hours, you would think. There are some US numbers coming out today, durable goods, initial jobless claims, things like that can give a bit of an insight perhaps into what might happen for the next NFP. And then there's an ECB speech later on as well, but besides that, nothing massively high impact for specifically the German DAX. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the trades. So for yesterday, quiet day for me as far as trading was concerned. I only had one trade on the DAX, which was this one at 9:36 in the morning, which would have been here, and it was this guy that I traded. So I got in at 263 and stop loss was 248. I was looking for a 324 target, which clearly would have hit comfortably. I mean, and some. There was plenty of room to spare there. Unfortunately for me, I didn't stay in until the end, and I was asking myself why I didn't do that. And the simple fact of the matter is I didn't stick to my plan. I took some money out of the trade, which is good. In fact, this was the closing notification that went through to the signal channel. So I managed to take out 300, which actually, I remember this, was that candle right there. And so I got out at 2.4%, which is pretty good addition to the account. I'll take it, but in hindsight, which is always 20/20, I would have done better to stay in the trade. So talk you through my thought process of why I got out of the trade. Well, I mean, why I got in was obvious. It was in buy zone, and I wasn't at the screens for these two. I was for that one, and I noticed that we had this kind of this rally through the previous high, which suggested that the trend was still intact. We then had this pretty sharp pullback, which held above this low, and so that interested me. It also bounced off of VWAP here, and as soon as it flicked back into buy mode, I was happy to go in for a chance at that, and off it went. It was good, and there were a few other guys in the group that were taking trades as well, so whether it was on this strategy or something else, it was just nice to have everybody all on the same page. And as far as criteria for getting out of the trade, what was slightly concerning was that I had this candle come up, which is the first large candle, yellow candle. Yellow means that it's above the deviation high, which is this band at the top, and it can often suggest that it's a higher probability of a pullback. In this case, it wasn't to be. But what I look for is whenever I'm in these modes, whenever I get a candle that comes back inside the bands, I'm a little bit apprehensive and start to anticipate maybe tightening up. And in this particular case, I closed out. So, and you can see that it was about the 300 level. So that was a bad decision in hindsight. But hey, I'm not going to beat myself up too much about it. But congratulations to everyone else who took it and went ahead. I didn't trade for the rest of the day on the DAX, but you can notice that in the afternoon session there was a sell opportunity, and we flipped into sell mode, which is the red zone. There was also a sell signal here, so the very first one I would normally have taken would have been a stop loss up here, enter in on the next candle, look for 4-1, which I don't think would have been hit. In reality, what probably would have happened is, as he got out of sell mode, as these candle colors change and price closes above the dot, so it would have got out somewhere in there for maybe 0.5 to 0.75%, but I didn't take it. So that is for those, and for today there isn't really anything going on as far as bias is concerned. It's kind of moved sideways in the overnight session. We've had this spike higher to get started. We're now testing the downside, so we'll see whether or not this 38, actually I don't know what that level is, 318? Yeah, 318 low will hold, and if not, we'll check the 300 level again, and then we'll wait for this to turn back on to look for more trades for the rest of the session. Right guys, that is me, so hopefully that was useful. If you like what we're doing on the content here, then leave a like on the video, leave a comment, or if you want to see something different, then let me know. Until tomorrow, have a good trading day, and we'll catch up with you again then. Take care.